My parents owned a record store back in the 50s, about 10 years before I came along, and they were big fans of music. They loved all kinds of music. Plus, we lived in New Orleans, and there was music everywhere. If you chose to go out and hear it, you could hear live music almost any day of the week. I say day because at the time, my parents would take me and my sister to go hear music because they loved it and they knew that we liked it too. There was just a lot of music around, and because we had a piano, and my mother came from a musical family, although she was not a musician herself, she wanted to make sure that I at least had the chance to be a musician. That was sort of a dream for her. So she made sure I had piano lessons at a very early age, and that was great. That's like giving a kid from the Northeast hockey skates, you know, on his 7th birthday. You know, that's just what you do at this part of the country. It was the greatest thing in the world for me to get into piano. My dad was the district attorney in New Orleans from 1973 through 2002 or 2003. And at the opening of his campaign headquarters when he was running for the second time, I guess it was 73. Yeah, it was 1973 because I was 5 years old. He had a piano he had a flatbed truck, and my mother wanted me to play the Star Spangled Banner, so he had an upright piano put on the back of the flatbed truck. And I played the Star Spangled Banner, and I have this image in my head. It's one of my earliest memories. I played it, and to me, I mean, it seemed like there was 100,000 people there. Probably was, you know, less than 1,000. I don't know how many people were there. I played it, and I looked up, and the people applauded, you know, and I went right into the second number. You know, I went right into playing something else. That wasn't on the program, you know. My dad probably wanted to get on with the reason we were there. But that was the first time I really communicated with people, you know, without saying anything, without really doing anything, just kind of playing. And that relationship has always fascinated me, you know. Ellis Marsalis was by far the greatest teacher of any subject I've ever had. I mean, he's in class by himself. And the reason his style is so removed from everyone else's is because of his respect for the discovery process. He really let me figure things out for myself. I remember once I was maybe 13 or 14, and I called him at home to tell him that I had figured out this particular lick on the piano. And he said, "That's great, man. That's really, that's terrific, you know. When we get back to school tomorrow or Monday or whenever it was, you know, play it for me." And that's terrific. And I look back on that, and it was the most basic, it was just a basic, primitive jazz lick. But you want me to play it? He taught me this, I figured this lick out. It's a very primitive lick. Like, let's say if I'm in the key of F and I want to get to this C, I could start on the 7th, and then I can go to the flat 5 below it, and then the 6th above it, and then hit it. So I can go, and it's the silliest little thing, but I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And Ellis made it seem like it was the coolest thing in the world. I mean, he could have showed me that the first day, you know. It was all about learning things sort of on your own, you know, and he was the best, man. Ellis was the greatest teacher, and he could back it up. I mean, anybody who knows Ellis's playing knows how amazing he is as a pianist. He could back anything up. I mean, anything he told you to do, he could do it, you know what I mean? You see these old gymnastics coaches and stuff, and they're telling the people what to do, but they can't get up there and do it, you know? Obviously, they can't. Ellis could do everything. I mean, there was nothing he told you to do that he couldn't do. When my mother died when I was 13, it was the worst experience you can imagine. And I remember right before she died, she wasn't able to move around. And she was in one room of the house, and she would ask me to play some classical pieces that she liked from another room so that she could hear me play. And I would do it, and it gave her great joy. My mother, the piano, and I had this really cool relationship. She loved the piano, she loved me. It was really a cool little triangle we had. When one of those sides of the triangle disappears, it collapses. And it was very hard for me to cope just as a 13-year-old. But it was interesting because the piano just kind of was always there. You know what I mean? Well, my mom knew what it took to be a good musician. She knew, I mean, she was highly educated, and she knew the work ethic it took to be highly educated. She was of very strong moral code and ethical standing, and she didn't like cheaters, didn't like liars. She liked honest, hardworking people. And I was supposed to be one of those people. And so that meant practicing, and that we had this little game where I didn't think it was a game at the time, but she was about this hard. She would knock me on my head when I made a mistake. She'd stand behind me and watch me practice, you know, and she just kind of, and I developed sort of a twitch, you know, when I would make a mistake. That's one of my fond memories. I would think about that a lot, you know. That's one of my fond memories of my mom. There was never a point in my life when I realized the possibilities, you know. It's always it's a constantly evolving, moving sort of experience for me. I mean, you make discoveries, you know. The discoveries I make now are much different than the discoveries I made when I was really in the learning stage. When I was in the stage where I was playing a lot of classical music, you know, when you play Chopin etudes, there's things, say, you know, you look at it on the page, you're saying, this is impossible. Like, you can't play this, you know? Or when you look at James P. Johnson's transcriptions on the piano, this is impossible. It's just impossible to play. But then you figure out, oh, that's what he did, or that was his original fingering, and you know, it becomes possible, and then you get better at it, and then it becomes in your fingers, you know.